Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this video, we are going to discuss about a recent report that has been released by the Directorate of National Intelligence, United States of America, which has talked about the annual threat assessment at the global scale. And it is in this particular report, US has clearly stated that India currently faces challenge with two neighboring countries. One is China and the other is Pakistan. However, as far as India's stance is concerned, it considered China to be its primary adversary. So let us try to understand what this report entails talk about. Now, as per the 2025 Worldwide or Global Threat Assessment Report by the Defense Intelligence Agency of US, it has stated that India do not have similar kind of stance and view toward both Pakistan and China. Rather, while China is considered by India as its primary adversary, now this primary adversary is not only in the military sense, defense sense, but also in the sense of economic competitiveness as such. On the other hand, Pakistan is considered more as an ancillary security problem that has to be managed, and that is why the policy that India follows to contain Pakistan or to challenge and compete with China is quite different and contrasting from each other. Also, the report talks about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's priority, where it has stated that he will probably focus more on demonstrating global leadership, countering China, and enhancing New Delhi's military power. That means here engagement from India should be on all front and would be on all front as per this particular report, whether it is diplomatic offensive, whether it is the economic cooperation both at the bilateral level, regional level, or even at the multilateral level, or enhancing the military power of India, both by focusing upon the import of the major defense goods as well as indigenization and the domestic production of the military items and military products as such. For example, you talk about the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited is currently engaged in production of the indigenous aircraft, that is Tejas. So background of this particular issue, if you try to understand why today the entire world is focused upon India, Pakistan, China, because you know that the cross-border attacks was carried out by Pakistan using its proxy elements of terrorists who has carried out a nefarious attack killing innocent civilians in Pahalgam, as a response of which India has launched Operation Sindoor, and again Pakistan retaliated by launching a swarm of drones inside the Indian territory, which Indian Army and Indian military has given befitted response to. So it is in this background we have to understand the significance of this particular report as such. And here you will see the contrast between India's view of Pakistan and Pakistan's view of India. As I told you, report considers that India considers Pakistan as a problem that you have to manage. You do not have to frame and put your entire diplomatic and military muscles toward containing Pakistan or toward framing such kind of policy, which takes a lot of energy, just focus upon Pakistan. Rather, India is more focused and is trying to challenge China. On the other hand, if you talk about Pakistan, it considered and regard India as an existential threat. Now, what is existential threat? This is something that also is a kind of propaganda spread by the Pakistani military generals, where they state that just mere the existence of India along the Pakistan's border is threat to the existence of Pakistan. And this is also something that they have tried to take advantage of by spreading such kind of propaganda in the domestic, in the population of Pakistan. And that is how military has begun to enjoy huge support in Pakistan. And that is why you will see that a lot of coup-like situations has taken place in Pakistan, whether it was during the general Ziaul Haq earlier, or in the times of what you can call as General Pervez Musharraf, where he has removed the Prime Minister of Pakistan Nawaz Sharif at that time, and that also coincided with the Kargil war and after that. So if you look at the report, what it talks about Pakistan, it clearly states that Pakistan also, because it considers India as an existential threat, it would continue to pursue its military modernization, and that military modernization would largely be helped directly or indirectly by two countries. One obviously is China, that has supplied all kind of military goods and defense goods to Pakistan, and now we also are seeing the strengthening of partnership between Pakistan and Turkey, where different types of drones, different kinds of even missile systems and all, it seems that Turkey can supply to Pakistan as such. And that will also include the development of battlefield nuclear weapons to offset India's conventional military advantage. Now, we clearly understand that as far as the military muscle and power of India and Pakistan is concerned, there is a huge gap between India and Pakistan. India enjoys a much more higher degree of superiority as such. And the only way how Pakistan can challenge India's conventional advantage is by developing such kind of tactical nuclear weapons, which can be considered as a kind of deterrent and can be considered as catastrophic in the battlefield as such. And this is what Pakistan's objective seem to be as per this particular report. Also, it will continue to modernize its nuclear arsenal, and almost certainly, it report says, now this is a very important point, report said that almost certainly Pakistan has procured WMD applicable goods. WMD stands for weapons of mass destruction, that can be chemical, radiological, biological, and nuclear weapons. So all these four categories of weapons can be classified as WMD from the foreign suppliers as well as intermediaries. And this is something that we have to be very careful and be very much concerned about. Now, as far as the Pahalgam terror attack is concerned, report also has briefly talked about it. It has stated that largely as a result of Pahalgam attack, terrorist attack carried out by the Pakistani backed terrorists, India launched Operation Sindoor, and at the same time India's large focus is also to counter the Chinese influence that it enjoys in the backyard of Pakistan and boost its global leadership role. India was giving priority to advancing its bilateral defense partnership in the Indian Ocean region. And in this context, we can take a look at the Quad partnership, Quad membership that India has joined. And also, India has conducted out several exercises. Example, recently also, India along the Bangladesh border has participated in and has carried out operation or exercise Tista Prahar and such, and similar such kind of exercises we can see has been carried out with Indian military and defense forces, both in the navy, in the context of navy, army, as well as air force. Training, arms cell, and information sharing. Arms cell we have discussed. India has given and sold its weapon to Armenia, that is in the backyard of Azerbaijan. India also has reportedly sold its weapon to Philippines in the South China Sea, and also it is in talk with many other countries in the context of selling of BrahMos, that is a missile system. India also has increased trilateral engagement in the Indo-Pacific region and actively participated in the multilateral fora. And four foras are what report largely underlines here. First, India has begun to engage more with the ASEAN group, that stands for Association of Southeast Asian Nations, that consists of countries such as Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Malaysia, and all that. Similarly, India is today a member of a group that is SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Agreement, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, where interestingly Pakistan, China, India, all three are member countries, and also the major countries talk about apart from this is China here. India also is a member of the BRICS grouping, which is continuously expanding. More and more members and countries from all across the world are trying to enter into the BRICS grouping as such, but it stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Large degree of cooperation we are seeing. And then obviously the Quad group, which consists of India, US, then you have Australia, and then Japan as such. So all these groupings and the multiforal engagement is something that India's diplomacy is trying to overall, what can we say, achieve through. Now, as far as the Indo-Russia relation is concerned, again, the report has clearly stated that we should not expect any significant shift or change in the Indo-Russia relationship. India would maintain its relationship throughout year 2025 and even beyond that because of several reasons. Now, what are the reasons that the report is citing? First of all, obviously, it says that the ties of India and Russia, India considers to be very vital and important because it will help it in achieving economical and defense objective as such. Economic objective we can understand from simple fact that because of the heavy sanctions imposed on Russia, India has been a large beneficiary of importing cheaper crude oil from Russia, and Russia became for some time the largest supplier of crude oil to India as such, overtaking even Saudi Arabia. Similarly, as you know, that to a large extent, India's military capabilities, whether it is Air Force, whether it is Army, whether it is Navy, is dependent on Russia, and that is why India sees value in the relationship. And also, not only that, the other advantage India would have with better relationship with Russia is that it can then use it as a means to offset the deepening Russia-China relationships, because you know that after the Ukraine war, we have seen China and Russia has become more closer, and they are trying to portray or construct an alliance that seems to be anti-Western in nature. They are trying to fight the Western hegemony, as they call it. And the best example of this you can see in the recent visit of the Chinese Premier Xi Jinping in the military parade of Moscow, where again both leaders, Putin and Jinping, have reiterated that China and Russia today enjoys ironclad friendship, and the friendship of steel is a term that largely is the alliance of steel is a term that largely has been used by both leaders. So if India begins to withdraw from the Russia, or the relationship begins to weaken, that will have an advantage to China. And obviously, using this, Pakistan can also try to take advantage of it. Now, India has reduced its procurement. Obviously, the report underlines that, especially during the tenure of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, we have seen a diversification of India's import. Earlier, to almost 65%, 75, 70% of the India's military import were largely of the Russian origin. This now has significantly changed, and India has reduced its procurement of Russian origin military equipment. But since India has a long history of procuring and importing Soviet Union at that time, and after that Russian made goods, still to a large extent India relies on the Russian spare part to maintain and sustain large inventory of tanks, for example, in the army, or fighter aircrafts in the air force. And this is very, very important, because the tanks and fighter aircrafts of India that largely are made up of Russian this equipments, they are what we can consider as the backbone of India's military capability to counter any kind of threat, whether it is originating from Pakistan, or in future even if it originates from China. And the best example of this also we can see in the recently concluded Indo-Pakistan war, where we have used the S-400 missile this missile defense system to neutralize the missiles launched by Pakistan toward the Indian territory as such. So that is why the dependency obviously is there, though from 60-65% of dependency today, our dependency on Russia has declined to 45%. Now, apart from Russia today, India basically import a huge amount of arms from the France, that makes up 28.6%. Again, the interesting case will be of Rafale, where we have used this in particular war, and that is of French origin. United States also is at third number, 11%. We talk about the military transport aircraft such as C-10, C-130. All this India has imported. India is also in talk with US to import the American drones. That can be a very important and significant in the next war. Israel again has emerged as a major supplier of weapons. Again, large amount of drones has been procured from Israel. Then you have UK and South Korea. But overall, Russia, France, US, and Israel, these four countries are from where India largely import its defense related items, defense related goods. And this is as per the report of SIPRI, that is Stockholm Institute of Peace and Relations. Now, if we talk about the other aspect which has been dealt in the report, is India's attempt to indigenize its military capabilities. And in this context, report has stated that India will continue its path. India will continue to promote Made in India initiative and objective this year and beyond that, maybe to build its domestic defense industry, to mitigate the supply chain disruption. Because let us assume a hypothetical scenario where Russia and China become so close that China can start influencing the Russia's decision and its relations with India, and that will obviously put India's military and its import in jeopardy. So, to ensure that such things do not happen, India should focus and would focus on indigenization effort and Made in India effort, as well as modernization of military would also go hand in hand. India continued to modernize military in 2024 as well. Report has highlighted, and three major achievements it has underlined. First is the launch and the testing of Agni 1 Prime missile, which is a medium range ballistic missile with a range of about 5,000 kilometers. Second, it has talked about is the Agni 5, that is also referred as MIRV, that is multiple independently launched re-entry vehicle as such. Now, Agni 5 has become more smarter because Agni 5 has MIRV technology. What MIRV technology basically means, that by launching a single missile, you can deliver multiple different warheads. It can be nuclear warheads, and because of this, a single missile can hit different targets in one launch and can neutralize the threats emanating from across the borders. So this is another important development that has happened in India's defense capability, highlighted by the report. And third, obviously, is the purpose of bolstering its nuclear triad, bolstering its ability to deter adversary. India has inducted its second nuclear powered submarine in the last year itself. These are the major achievement that has been highlighted by this particular report as such. Now, also briefly, it has touched upon the issue of Indo-China relations. We know that after the meeting between the Prime Minister Modi and the Premier of China Xi Jinping in the Kazan at the outset of BRICS meeting, both leaders have agreed that we have to focus on disengagement from the line of actual control, especially along the regions of Depsang and Demchok. This report has mentioned that obviously disengagement has basically created a kind of calm, we can say, between the relation in the relation between both countries, but at the same time, it has failed to resolve the long-standing dispute about the border demarcation, where China has occupied a large territory in the northern part of India, in the Ladakh region, and also it lays claim over the entire state of Arunachal Pradesh. So this disengagement does not solve that particular problem as such. However, obviously, it has led to the reduction of some tensions. The tension which has become quite what you can call as volatile. The relation between both countries have become quite volatile because of the Galwan incident that happened in 2020, where troops on both sides died in a clash along the line of actual control. So this disengagement is something that we consider as a positive step in the Indo-China relations as such. And also we have discussed that after the meeting between the Prime Minister Modi and Jinping, we also have seen the meeting between the special representatives from India and China. Ajit Doval was representing the India, who is the National Security Advisor, and from the Chinese side, you have the Wang Yi, who is the Foreign Minister as such. After that, several rounds of discussion and dialogue has taken place between at the highest level. For example, Foreign Secretary visited Beijing, and there also a decision was taken to resume the air traffic, or what I can call as resume the air transportation between India and China that has remained suspended since 2020. And also China has allowed the resumption of Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. So all these steps that has taken between India and China can be considered as a positive development. But again, report highlights that this does not solve the long-standing issue between both countries, and that is where trouble lies as such. And especially this becomes significant in the context of strong backing that Pakistan enjoys from China, which we saw in the recently concluded war as well. So that is all about this particular video. I hope you got the idea behind the significance of this report and how USC the entire geopolitics, especially in the South Asia region, and specifically related to India, China, Russia, and Pakistan as such. So that is all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you very much.